Welcome back. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Montane Kamen insulated jacket and how Montane are using gold to improve its performance. The Kamen jacket could potentially be the perfect option for any of you looking for a mountaineering, ski touring or expedition insulated jacket that provides you with a great warmth to weight ratio, a great pack size and also a really resilient, durable outer fabric. Now a lot of different technologies go into making the Kamen, so this video is going to be broken down a little bit more than we normally would. Firstly, we'll talk about the fabrics. So as we mentioned at the start of the video, the Kamen is designed to be used in quite extreme environments, whether you're mountaineering, ski touring, completing expeditions or multi-day treks. The chances are this jacket is going to be scuffed, scraped and given quite a lot of abuse. So it means that picking the right external fabric is really, really important. Montane have decided to go for a 20 denier Pertex Quantum diamond fused fabric. The 20 denier part means that we're still going to get a nice lightweight jacket, so it's not sort of pushing that weight limit up really high, and it's also going to mean that the jacket is nice and packable. The Pertex Quantum diamond fuse is going to be a really important factor when it comes into this. It's taking that lightweight fabric and making it extremely strong and durable and very abrasion resistant, and it's also giving you a good level of weather resistance. This jacket is not waterproof by any means, but because of that diamond fuse technology, it means it's going to shed water much more efficiently and potentially in slightly heavier showers, it's going to shed that moisture. So if you're throwing this on a multi-day trek maybe, and you just want a bit of warmth while you're stopped, but you don't want to have this on all the time, and it's raining, it will shed off that water from the jacket. Potentially if you're using this in snowy environments, if that snow is settling on you and then melting, it's going to shed that moisture as well, which means it's less likely to soak into the jacket and obviously onto you underneath. So just to talk a little bit about diamond fuse, what makes this so different is they've changed the yarn shape to a diamond, which means they can get a much tighter weave on the fabric, which makes it more durable and abrasion resistant. In fact, it makes it twice as abrasion resistant when compared to more traditional yarns. So if you're looking to use this jacket in extreme conditions where there's going to be a lot of abrasion, so potentially that could be from your equipment, so your rucksack being put on the shoulders potentially, if you're walking into a winter climb, or potentially feeding rope across your shoulders, this is going to be a really good option for you because it's just so highly abrasion resistant, while still being very packable and lightweight as well. It could also potentially be good for people who are using it in tough environments where they're up against the environment, so potentially climbers where you're scuffing up against rocks, maybe scrambling as well. This is going to hold up really well against that sort of external abuse. So yeah, diamond fuse is a really impressive fabric. It's going to keep the weight down while giving you a really good level of durability and abrasion resistance, while also giving you a good level of weather resistance as well. We had the guys from Montane in a couple of weeks ago and they took the rough side of a piece of Velcro or hook and loop and brushed it against the outside of the jacket for a really long period of time, and when they took it away there was no sign that it had ever been done at all, which was really impressive. If you did that to more some conventional yarns and conventional sort of external fabrics, you would definitely start to see some wear from that and potentially even some loose fibres as well. So really impressive external fabric. Now we're going to move inside the jacket and talk about the insulation that's being used, and this is where gold plays a big part. So now it's time to talk about arguably the most exciting part of the Kamen jacket, and that is the insulation that is being used within this. So we're seeing an extra dry 800 fill power goose down insulation. So we'll just talk about the fill power part first. So fill power, the higher the number, the better the warmth to weight ratio is, the highest being, to my knowledge, 1000 fill power. So 800 is right up there at the top. So the higher the fill power, the better warmth to weight ratio you're going to get and the more packable the jacket is going to be for that warmth and weight. So 800 fill power is going to give you a really good amount of warmth for that weight. The weight of the jacket is 495 grams. But it's also going to make sure the jacket remains very packable for that warmth. So basically it's got a very high lofting ability, which means that you don't need as much of it to keep you nice and warm, which means that jacket is still going to maintain a very good pack size and a good warmth to weight ratio. So where this is important potentially is for you multi-day trekkers or people who are doing expeditions where potentially the jacket's going to spend a lot of the time in your bag. You want something that's light, packable, but when you do need it, it's going to give you a good amount of warmth. And that's really where this jacket sits really nicely. Moving over then to the extra dry part, this is where it gets really interesting. And Expodry is a chemical-free alternative to hydrophobic coatings. So hydrophobic coatings have been used on insulated products or down insulated products now for many, many years. It's a chemical treatment that is applied to the down to make sure that it still functions when it gets wet. So it creates a coating on the down clusters that stops moisture bonding to the clusters. If you were to take sort of untreated down and apply moisture, the down cluster would completely collapse and it would lose its warming properties. So to combat that, we've started using hydrophobic treatments, which have then meant that moisture is shedded away from the down, and therefore you're going to get that loft for longer in damp conditions. Montane have decided to go for a chemical-free alternative, which is where it becomes really interesting. They've actually bonded gold particles to the down clusters at a microscopic level. These gold particles create an electrostatic shield around the clusters of down, which prevents moisture from settling on the down, and therefore it doesn't collapse and lose its warming properties. This works in two different ways, both from external elements, so rain, fine mist and mizzle, but also from you sweating or perspiring within the jacket. So let's say you're working really, really hard, you create a lot of sort of sweat and moisture from your body. If you then stop and take a rest, that's obviously going to condense. And in traditional jackets, that would then form moisture within the jacket or within the down itself. Because of the system they're using, a very disruptive system, it disrupts those hydrogen molecules and stops that moisture settling on the down itself. So it's going to remain lofted and keep you warmer. So a really nice chemical-free alternative to hydrophobic coatings. It doesn't need to be maintained. So with hydrophobic coatings, you do need to top them up from time to time, especially if you were to wash your jacket. You would then need to treat it afterwards to make sure that the down is still coated, so that if you do use this in damp conditions, it's still going to perform to a good level. That is not needed with Expodry, which is really, really impressive. But yeah, overall, a really interesting alternative to hydrophobic coatings. It also dries much, much faster than down that's been treated with hydrophobic coatings. So yeah, overall, really, really impressive and exciting new technology, and I'm really interested to see how far it goes. The gold itself is sourced from the used electronics market, so it's recycled, and it takes just 3 grains of salt worth of gold per 1 kilogram of down. So it's also an incredibly efficient use of this gold that they're sourcing from that market. So yeah, a really, really impressive solution to the problem, and it'll be interesting to see how people get on with it over the next sort of year. It's quite new. It's been used, like I said, in one jacket last year. It's been rolled out to a much, much wider range of jackets within Montane's range this year, so it'll be really impressive to see. And this jacket next to me is actually mine to test, so I'll also be doing a review to give you an idea of how it's performed. There's also a second type of insulation being used in this jacket, and that is Primaloft Gold synthetic insulation, and that is being seen on the shoulder panels and also under the arms, so areas that are going to potentially take a bit more abuse. So the shoulder panels, for example, a rucksack strap sitting on them is going to maybe disrupt the down. So using something a bit more durable, like synthetic insulation, is going to mean that the jacket goes for a bit longer. You're not going to see any wear or movement within the insulation on the shoulder panels, so you're not going to have any cold spots. So yeah, that's used systematically throughout the jacket on those key points that do need synthetic insulation. But your main baffle construction is a nip and tuck, which means that the down is now lofting towards your body, which is going to give you the down more thermal properties. So you're going to get more out of that down insulation than you might have on previous jackets from years before. So overall, the insulation in this jacket is really, really impressive. They're using synthetic insulation where it's needed to make sure you're getting the best possible experience from your jacket, and it's also going to last you a good long time. And we're obviously seeing that new technology, which overall is really, really impressive. If you'd like to learn more about it, Montane have some great videos on their website and also some written information as well. It's well worth checking out. Now what we'll do is we'll jump into the features of the jacket. Now we've got that slightly more complex stuff out of the way, let's jump into the jacket and talk about the features. And as per usual, we're going to start at the top and make our way down. So the first thing we're going to see is a fully helmet compatible hood using the Pivot 3 system. So this means that you're going to have unrestricted movement for your head even when you're wearing a helmet. So if you want to turn your head left and right, there's not going to be any restriction to the amount of movement you have, which is important if you're using this in a technical environment. You don't want your jacket restricting you or causing you any issues. This has got 3 points of adjustment. So we've got 2 internal points. So you'll see this little grey bit here, that is our stitched into the jacket, our adjustment point, and then we have our toggle here. The reason this is all internal is to prevent, one, any snag risks when you're up on the mountains, but also in really windy conditions, the last thing you want is one of these blowing up and hitting you in the face. Not a very nice experience from someone who has had that happen. So stitching them all into the inside of the jacket makes it much, much safer. No snag risks, no risk of anything blowing up into your face. On the back, we've got a volume sort of reducer, just a really simple big toggle, easy to grab hold of with gloves, and this reduces the volume of the hood as well. What you're seeing here is because it's intended to be used in very, very cold conditions, that insulation is coming right up to the brim of the jacket, so that when you cinch it down, you've got that warmth all the way up to the edge. So you don't see a rigid visor on this one, but that insulation comes all the way up to the edge of the jacket, which is really, really nice. We've got a YKK two-way main Visalon zipper. So two things to talk about there. Firstly, two-way, which means we can open it from the top like a conventional jacket, or from the bottom. So in terms of what that could be useful for, the main use is for belayers, so people who are standing at the bottom of the crag and belaying their partner. It means you can have full access to your harness without having to take your jacket off the top portion of you, so you're going to be nice and warm while still having unrestricted access to your belay system, making it a much safer way to use your jacket. You could also potentially use this for some sort of ventilation as well. So if you are hiking with it and you are using it in quite cold conditions, you're starting to get a bit warm, you could potentially unzip the jacket a little bit at the bottom and let a little bit of warm air out while maintaining a good level of warmth up on the top part of your body. The Visalon part is referring to the actual zip itself, and what this means is that if you were to be out in some sort of extreme environment for long periods of time and you broke off one of the teeth on your zip, which is unlikely but can happen, that is going to the zip itself is still going to function seamlessly. So you can then continue to use your jacket until you can get somewhere to repair it. A lot of other zippers, if a tooth was to be missing, the zip would cease to function, which is not something you want when you're in extreme environments where you're relying on your equipment. So a really nice thing to see on the Kamen. Behind that, you'll see there is a storm flap, and this is just to prevent any wind that might make its way through the zip itself or migrate its way through the zipper actually coming into contact with you. So it's just giving you a little bit of additional protection on the inside of the jacket. Coming down the sleeves, we've got a few things to talk about. The first is Reach Plus, which is a system they're using within the jacket to maintain a really good amount of movement within the jacket. So if you are using this as a climbing jacket, a winter mountaineering jacket, it's really important you have a good range of movement. So you want to be able to lift your arms above your head, and if you're operating in a vertical environment, this is really important. So if you were to reach above your head, you'll notice that the jacket does not ride up, exposing flesh. You've got good range of movement, it's unrestricted, so if you are having to place some gear in an awkward position, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to place that gear while also having your jacket resisting you. So a really important feature that you want to use this as a winter climbing jacket. We've got pre-articulated sleeves, again aiding in that range of movement, and then we've got sort of inverted elasticated cuffs. And what I mean by inverted, it means that the actual elastication is inside the cuff by about a centimetre, so that insulation can come all the way up to the edge of the cuff, providing you with as much warmth as possible and no cold spots around your wrist where potentially your wrist might meet your glove. A really nice system. We've seen this on some of the other brands as well, and I think a really nice system to be implementing. Coming across, we have two external pockets, both of which are high enough to not be impeded if you've got a harness over the top of the jacket or potentially a waist belt from a rucksack, which is probably more likely. And these are both using YKK zips. In terms of size, we've got a really nice big pocket. You could fit an OS map into the pocket in terms of its size. I think you'd struggle to get it through the opening. We will test this for you. But just to give you a rough idea of the internal space, it's definitely big enough to fit an OS map in there. Inside the jacket, we're seeing elasticated drop pockets on both sides. So this is a good place to keep hats and gloves, things you might want to keep warm. So obviously this is closer to your body and behind the insulation, so the things that I keep inside are going to be warmer. So yeah, it's where I tend to keep my hats and gloves, those kind of things, if I'm not wearing them. Located in the pocket when you get your jacket, I've moved mine to an internal pocket just to prevent it from getting lost, is a cubular stuff sack, so it packs down to a really nice shape and size for packing. Depending on how you like to pack your equipment, if you're using a waterproof bag, then this is absolutely fine. If you are not using a waterproof bag and you're not using a rain cover, you might prefer to put this into some sort of dry bag, just so if your bag gets soaking wet, your down jacket is nice and dry on the inside. Coming back down, you'll notice that there is a popper on the bottom of the jacket where the zip puller was. That's just so you can pop her up and secure the bottom if you do decide to use that lower zip. And then coming around to the sides of the jacket, we've got 2 points of adjustment, one on either side, and each side you can independently adjust both the rear and the front of the jacket to get a really nice secure fit, meaning that warm air isn't going to be forced out of the jacket and no cold air is going to be blown up underneath the jacket, which is really important if you're using this in really extreme conditions where that cold air could drop your temperature quite dramatically, even if a little bit gets through the bottom, improving the overall fit. Touching on fit, this is using Montane's Mountain cut. So it's a cut that allows for more layers to be put underneath the jacket. So obviously this is intended to be used in very, very very cold conditions, sorry. So it's important to be able to layer up underneath the jacket. And also if you're using this in potentially wet conditions where you've been walking all day with your waterproof, you decide to stop for some lunch, it's quite cold, so you want to throw on a layer. It's important that you can get this over the top of your waterproof for that short period of time that you're stopped, and then take it off and pack it back into your bag, rather than having to take your waterproof coat off, put this on, and then put your coat back over the top of it. So a nice cut and a nice fit from Montane. We'll put some size information on the screen for you. I take a size small, I'm 5'8", and I weigh about 83 kilograms. So that should give you a rough estimate of size for you, but we'll put some additional information on the screen as well. So that was a quick look at the Montane Kamen insulated jacket, a really, really impressive piece of equipment for those of you looking for a winter jacket, insulated jacket for mountaineering, ski touring, expedition or multi-day trekking use, and you want the best of the best when it comes to both the external fabrics and the insulation that's being used. Some really interesting stuff today. If you've got any questions about anything that we discussed, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. If you think there's anything I've missed, please feel free to leave it down there as well. We can always pin comments if it will help people when it comes to deciding about their products. Just like always, if you could like and subscribe, it really helps us out. We'll see you next time.